All right.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Derek, and hopefully I'll be answering some of your questions. I'm going to kind of direct a lot of the questions towards Dennis, as he's definitely he's got a lot of experience, so he's kind of seen it all. And we kind of grouped some similar questions to each other, and we feel we might be able to get through them fairly quickly. So we're hoping to be able to open it up to everybody at the end in case anybody has a question that may have come up who signed on originally as just listening only. Maybe this will trigger some questions. So, and also hello to all of you out there that this particular one, we had a couple people that are in the process of getting their dome dreams to come true here. We got a few people in the planning stages, I think, that are attending. As well as some owner builders that have been working on their projects that are also attending. So it'd be nice having you guys on board, and we will get started. So I had a couple of questions here that both were a little similar regarding the aspects of a dome in respects to sound. Two different types, I guess. One was a question from Chris, and as I read your questions, please feel free to jump in. If you're there, Chris, you can even ask a question if you'd like. But this is Chris from Tennessee, and he was kind of inquiring about a recording studio. So that was Chris's. And on the other side of it is Rachel from Minnesota. I don't know if you're, oh, hi, Rachel, how you doing? I only see a few of them, so it's always great when I'm able to see. But it looks like you guys are already kind of struggling a little bit with some sound problems. And let's see, I'll just read the question if that sounds good to you, or did you want to? Okay. Can you discuss issues with too much internal sound in a dome home? Dome homes are absolutely breathtaking, but we live in a high ceiling, open floor plan townhome now and have issues with too much noise. For example, when our toddler is asleep in the bedroom, while one of us is trying to get dishes done in the kitchen, sometimes he wakes up. The kitchen, family room, living room are all open to each other, and only the bedrooms are separated by doors. I imagine sound could be an issue in a dome home open floor plan. So those are two good questions, and they're both sound related. So I will kind of let you start that off if you want, Dennis. I might jump in a little bit on some of those. But in other words, you can kind of explain how, I know you got some speakers going in your dome that work really well with the sound there. So
yeah, and as I'm sitting here looking at people, I'm going, okay, maybe we need a little more introduction of ourselves.
True. Yeah, we kind of jump into it trying to get through them all. So
okay, Dennis, take over. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm Dennis Johnson. I've been founder with my late wife of the Big Outdoors People company that operated in the 1970s. And then we started another company called Natural Spaces Domes. That was 1978. So I've been doing this for 50 years. Currently, it's Tessa, my wife, and I are the owners of Natural Spaces Domes. Derek is our, I don't know, we don't usually have titles around here, but project manager, whatever.
That works.
Works in the shop, works doing cost estimates, contracts, talks to customers, out on job sites. So we've got a small company, but we certainly have a lot of interesting people that we meet. So we have been talking about doing this for some time. This is what, the fourth one that we've done, the Dome Talk series.
Yep.
And it's worked very well. We want to engage some people in conversation, answer their questions, and then the process kind of understand. You can understand then what the dome is really all about. The recording studio question we've done, and that's one of the photos that just about a half hour ago, Derek had said, oh, do you have some photos for tonight? And I go, oh, gee, no, I don't. I couldn't get it in time. But we've done two different domes. One was up in New York and one was up in Canada for recording studio. How does this dome perform? My dome here. This is a 49-foot diameter dome, quite large. We're dealing with 2 bedrooms upstairs. Downstairs is the master bedroom. So the recording studio part of it, I've got a speaker up here in a corner and another one over here in the other corner. If you can call them corners, they're the corners of the balcony. And they're pointed out to the open part of the dome. It fills the entire whole dome with sound. Sound will transfer over the dome following the arc of the dome. So we've had a lot of things that we've done here entertainment-wise with parties. We can crank the music up here, but back of me right here in that doorway, that's a bedroom. That's the master bedroom. And we've got a sliding door we can actually close, but it's a 54-inch wide opening to make that room part of this entertaining area. So it fills the sound out here, but you can go in the room and we usually set up some tables. We did that, we got married in here. So the sound transfer, yes, it will transfer, but if you've got closed rooms, you want a solid core door, which is what we've got on the sliding pocket door. You want a sound dead in the walls with one of the brand names is Thermofiber. It's a very dense mineral wool blanket of both insulation, but really used for sound control. So you want to line the studs on the wall, up along this edge, up along that edge, all around. That's going to stop the transfer through the walls. Now, here's our problem. I'm assuming this, most of our people here have been stuck in the house. We're approaching a year, you know. So you are much more aware of the acoustics in your house. And you pointed out that you've got problems in your existing house, which is a townhouse that has a high ceiling in it. Well, you probably have hollow core doors, which have virtually no sound stopping qualities at all. And you probably don't have any insulation in those walls. So this is the nature of how we're building today. How we've been building in the last maybe 20 years. You want your kitchen, dining room, living room open. You want it visually connected. You don't want a dining room and the kitchen behind the wall going through a door. That's 50s, 60s, maybe 70s. But at some point we switched that. So now we have this open feeling that you want and the connectivity. So now you see with COVID going on, and you're stuck in your house, you see the issues that you're coming up with. When I'm talking here, inside of this huge dome, it's 35 feet high. We've got a cupola up on the top, no floor, but the cupola raised up. We don't have reverb. That's the one thing that is a feature of the dome. You will have sound transfer from one side to the other, but not the reverb. So from a sound standpoint and a design standpoint, what I've learned through COVID, we have a very large master bedroom. You need a space in the master bedroom for an office, or create an office that's adjacent to your master bedroom or off of the master bedroom. Maybe you add another dome, little small dome off of that. You want a study area for the kids in a private, separate room. And you want them insulated. So they can turn up the music, their music, which usually isn't your music, although our 4-year-old grandson loves our music. So it's a situation where the design now is changed. COVID has done that. It's shown you the deficiencies in your house, the extra room that you need, the ability to be on a Zoom call like this in a separate private room and have multi-function areas, but have private areas in the house. So that's coming back, not to close off living room, dining room, kitchen, but to get these separate rooms, get that office space. And if you're a professional and you're in an office, you may want that door to the outside. If you put it near the front door or the side of the front door, you can design this as such. We've done this several times to get that room so it's got an access near the front so you can have clients, friends, whatever, come into that office separately without going into the house. So those are some of the real things. Now, acoustic wise, if you really want to sound deaden, you want to put some special panels in the dome if you want to deaden the whole sound. We did a museum for the Sioux tribe in South Dakota. And this is on the upper floor of a 52-foot diameter dome. We did spray foam insulation in the walls, fully packed. Well, that was when we were doing 2x6. But over that, we did an acoustical and fire retardant spray. That stopped all the sound transfer. But the problem they had was they said, it's too quiet. There's no sound travel. And it just kind of went out and that's it, didn't go anywhere. And you're used to some of this bounce back that you might have. When we do events and things, if somebody's going to speak in the dome, we put them over here on top of the mantle, and that sound transfers all the way on top. I'm sorry, not on top of the mantle, on top of the hearth, which is taconite rock. So they stand up a little higher, and the whole entire room can hear them very well. They can also hear everybody. Church is the same way. We did a church thing, and the people in the back row, normally you want to hide away in the back row in a church. If you don't want to move to the front, you're in the back. But in that dedication of that church, I mentioned to the people in the back, can you hear me okay? And they say, just fine. I said, well, just remember the dome transfers the sound the other way. So you want to sit in the middle. If you sit in the back, the pastor can hear every word you're saying. So that's the unique quality of the dome, and I think it's an advantage of the dome, not a detriment. Concrete floors, not a problem. You need furniture. You need things breaking it up. If you don't have that, if it's one wide open space, yes, you might need some sound control. Talking both from the standpoint of the kids, but you can work with that within the design of that, I think, after you move in. We've got a carpet rug area underneath our couch right here. That's the only place that we have a carpeted floor, so to speak.
Okay.
So
Good.
I kind of went into that a lot, but
Well, yeah, I was going to say we kind of have a lot of questions coming in too. So a lot of the people that signed up for listening, we are already getting inspiration out of them. So this is good. And if we can't get to all of them, we will definitely, keep them for next time, but we will get them answered, but we'll try to see if we can get through all of them here.
sure.
Next question, and I got a weird feeling, or a strange feeling possibly is a better way of saying it, that I may have spoken with Brian from Anchorage. Are you on, Brian, or did you want to ask this question? But I think I might have had a discussion with you possibly. I know I talked to somebody in Anchorage. I don't have the memory Dennis does with names. He always seems to remember everybody he's talked to just about. But anyway, if we did have a conversation or you want to jump in and elaborate on this question, feel free to do so. But Brian was asking about managing water vapor. And this is becoming a more and more interesting topic, I guess, because a lot of people are becoming aware of, water vapor mitigation and the different ways to do it. In fact, Dennis and I are going to get some additional training on it ourselves coming up. We're going to kind of try to keep ourselves up with the latest and greatest things that they just have tried to introduce with some of these newer technologies. But his question was managing water vapor in cold climates with insulation and ventilation. Advantages of traditional vapor barrier versus CCSPF versus smart membrane. Basically the different options of some of the vapor barriers that are available, and also around windows and skylights. His current build is a timberline, but he plans to build others in the future. And the timber lines, I think, typically are not vented. Is that right, Dennis?
Yeah, that's right.
So, you know, and one of the newer things that have come out, I shouldn't say newer, but they're really gaining popularity is the ERVs, HRVs as well. But I think people are really starting to lean on the ERVs even more so, as they also kind of help maintain humidity as well as heat as they're transferring fresh air and your air from in the house. So do you want to kind of jump into that one, Dennis, a little bit?
ERV is an energy recovery ventilator. We have a heat recovery ventilator in this dome. It basically takes outside air, brings it in, and ducts stale inside air out through a chamber. And that's one of the photos I was going to have tonight, but I don't have it. Through a chamber that is probably 2.5 feet by 2 feet high by 2 feet wide. It's a box with baffles inside. So the air doesn't mix, but it transfers heat. And that's why it's called a heat recovery ventilator. Mine, I believe, it's a recuperator, and I believe it's rated at about 84-85% efficient. And that was from not 19, a little too early, 2005 when we bought that. So there's some ones right now that'll get up in the 90% efficiency. That is, they're going to recapture 90% of that heat, which would have been lost going out with that stale air. It's a small little, I mean, if you've got tendonitis or anything, you got a ear issue, you'll never hear it. So it's like a white noise in the background. So there's air coming in. So when you get up in the morning, when you're sleeping, it's fresh air coming into your house. It's lovely. We go away for a long weekend or something, come back. If that's been on, it's not like a house has been closed up. And actually, in the wintertime here, it's rare that we're going to open a window. Doors, maybe we're going to open up, but we don't have a lot of air transfer because this house is very tight. And that's all of our domes are that way. So the situation is that you've got to have fresh air. And that have the outside air, which is drier, coming in. And that's going to help in the wintertime. You don't want, let's put it this way, you want to control your moisture inside the house. So that air-to-air exchanger is one of the ways to control it. If you're in a moist climate, you're going to bring in that moist air. You want an energy recovery ventilator, which takes the moisture out of the air when it's bringing it in. It grabs that moisture out and drains it out. So that's how you're going to keep this air in the wintertime drier. You're down south, you still need an air-to-air exchanger. You can't assume this is only for cold climate. It isn't. So you design this for your climate zone. We've got somebody from Alaska, we got somebody from Texas. They both need air-to-air exchangers, but the situation is a little bit different as to what air you're bringing in. So there's moist air down there. Now the comment, I know I looked at this before, it's from Anchorage. You've got salt air. You don't want that coming into your house. So you have this air-to-air exchanger that's going to take that humidity out of the house. Along with it is this salt that's in the air, because that's the air that's drying out. There are other ways from the standpoint, we've got radiant floor heating here. That's going to be drier than if you're introducing a system that has more moisture in the air, or you've got the brand name is one of those is April Air. If you've got a forced air system and you've got April Air, which is adding humidity. Later on, you may need to do that because your house is drying out. Early on, the first 3 to 5 years, you don't want to. There's too much moisture. You need some airflow. We have a fan up on the ceiling here at the very top inside the cupola that we can set so it's blowing air down. This house is dry enough that we don't have moisture accumulating on the windows anymore, is what I'm going to say. All new construction, all new houses. We're going to have moisture on the windows because that's the coldest surface temperature. You can go to triple pane windows, which is what we have here. I'm pointing over here and not showing you. So we've got these triangle windows, which are triple pane. The windows below in the riser wall are Marvin windows, and those are triple pane also. One of these, I think it's the one right here, is double pane. I happen to have that size, and it was sitting in the shop. We needed an extra window, so we just used that. You can feel the difference. Put your hand on that pane, put your hand on this pane, and you can feel the difference in the surface temperature. So now it's still the coldest surface temperature, but it's not as cold. So that's the other way with condensation issues that you want to deal with it. And triple pane windows with our triangle skylights, they're pricier, but the Marvin windows, conventional windows, are less pricey. There's still a upcharge for that. We do have a quad window in our older dome that we have next to the office. It was built in '75. And we did with the last company, made a quad pane window, two hexagon windows in the bathroom. I've never had an issue on a 4-pane window with 3/4 inch air spaces in each one. So that's another way to do it. Segregate the room. You got a bathroom, put in triple pane or 4-pane. You know, it's very doable. Just it's a matter of how you order that glass. So all of this is a long, long discussion on things. And you're going to have a situation where we're going to help you along with that. The latest technology deals with dew points. You got to know the dew point of your wall. Well, that's a matter of what you use in that wall. You need insulation to keep this place a constant, even temperature. We don't turn the radiant floor down when we go. We don't turn it down at night. We don't turn it away like we're going to go away to the cabin and we go, well, let's turn the heat down. We don't do that. This mass of floor that we have, concrete floor, stays the same temperature from when we turn it on in October till we turn it off. Well, I joke, but sometime in June, you know, here in Minnesota. And it really is, you know, this is 3,200 square feet of space, 2,100 square feet down here, and that's the concrete slab, 2,100 square feet. We've insulated below the slab. You want 4 inches of foam insulation below that slab. We've got the stuff. You can go on Bear Creek Dome on our website and you'll see the data. You'll see the stats on all that. We've got a sample in the middle here. There's 16 square feet. It's got 1 inch, 2 inch, and 4 inch insulation, along with bubble wrap and Mylar faced bubble wrap, which are horrible. They don't do anything. So we've done the testing. It's there, it's online. You can see the results. The fact that we're heating this house constant all winter long, and we're talking about an average of $530 a year, not a month. So, you know, this is what you want to have. You want to have a comfortable house, even temperature, and a very low cost. We have natural gas, which is cheaper than propane and cheaper than electric, but it's still going to be cheaper. It's going to be half the cost of what a well-insulated brand new house is. Derek, you wanted to add some?
Well, I was going to say, you know, as you were kind of talking, you were covering a lot of points, and I might try to throw a couple more questions in while you're on this. He did also ask the difference of vapor barriers, so we may want to not brush back on that at some point, but you did bring up the radiant floor heat, and that was another question we had from John in Wisconsin. And I don't know if you're on, John, but basically he's kind of wondering how, the gist of it is, he's wondering how radiant heat performs in his climate zone. He's in zone 4A. So instead of reading the question, I'll just kind of let you talk about it, because I think you're going to kind of cover everything. So when you kind of touched on it already, but I think there are some questions on the radiant heat, and we also have a couple questions on insulation, which you're also jumping into. So I know at the radiant heat, it's not a problem up here. It's not really a problem anywhere. You don't really need it if you don't have much call for heating, probably in certain areas. But I thought we had another question, but I'm not finding it at the moment from, I believe it was Texas was asking about radiant heat as well, or maybe Tennessee. I think you mentioned that. And we did have a lot of questions come in. So we got a very curious group of people here tonight. So I don't know if we can kind of speed through a few of these to try to get to many when we can, but yeah, if you want to elaborate a little bit more on the radiant heat, I think you would kind of answer about 2 more questions that were here, as well as touch on those vapor barriers maybe a little bit.
The radiant heat is a water-based system that we have with PEX tubing in the concrete slab. And you need air conditioning. Everybody now, in Minnesota included, goes for air conditioning. So along with the radiant floor heating, we have mini split systems sitting up about 10, 12 feet above the second floor. And that's an 18,000 BTU mini split. It means that the condenser, the fan coil unit is outside, and there's 2 lines that run in, supply and return to that unit. It is a heat pump system. So for the time that you have in the spring and the fall, you're worried about too much heat in the floor. Well, you set your thermostat on the wall to your comfort level. Ours happens to be at 70 or 71. We don't change it. We don't go up to it. Well, occasionally we'll say, gee, it's a little cold in here. Well, it's a digital thermometer. So it's a half a degree colder or something. I mean, if we can feel that because we're so used to this constant temperature. But the reality is, when the sun comes out during the daytime and helps warm this house up, you might get to 72 degrees, 73 degrees. The radiant floor system is not calling for more heat. It will maintain this temperature. You can leave it alone. Your feet will be warm, but it's not going to be generating more heat into this space. So from an overheating standpoint, if you had to in the spring or the fall, open a window if you think it's too warm, if it got too warm because the sun came out, control it that way. Turn your thermostat down if you want to at some point. So with the mini split, with the heating system and the air conditioning system and the radiant floor, you've got total control of what you want to do.
Great. And I'm glad you brought up the cooling, because there was somebody that asked about that. So I'm glad you brought up the mini split. That kind of answers that one that popped in. So yeah, the mini splits are also very energy efficient too. So
yeah, one more thing on the mini split is that we've got a small unit in the master bedroom. It's a 8,000 or 9,000 BTU air conditioner. That, for the most part, cools our entire space during the summer. We have that large door we just leave open. So there's air coming out of the cool air is coming out of that. Cool air drops. It stays down on this floor, but it's not much hotter upstairs. We will actually leave the cupola window open, which is automatically controlled from down here. It's electric. So that's all part of this heating and cooling system. It's using natural air, opening windows. It's using, the radiant floor heat to generate what you want. It's the same temperature upstairs as it is downstairs.
okay. Oh, and speaking of cupola, I got Denise from Pennsylvania. I don't know if you're on there, Denise, but it looks like you had a question regarding a couple of things, but you did bring up the cupola, so I'll jump into this one next, Dennis. So Denise says she bought a Sierra model dome that was built in 1969, which appears to be the exact model Bucky Fuller built. Bought from original family members. And the paperwork shows the shingles were done in 96 and a few have been kind of starting to fall off. So she's assuming it might be time for a new roof. She's also looking to remove the 10 skylights, and I'm being told a cupola is recommended as new technology on domes. And she's wondering if that's correct on the cupola.
Well, it's not new technology. We've been doing cupolas since 1972. So it's one way to have natural, efficient natural ventilation of the air that you breathe inside the house. So you can control that with the windows down below. We've got a creek that's about 30 feet below us down the hill. During the summertime, there's cool air coming up from that. We open up the cupola, open these lower windows, and pretty soon it's too cold. So that's natural air conditioning that we've got. From the standpoint of using that cupola to deal with controlling condensation inside your house, it's not really what it's supposed to do. It's a fresh air vent at the top. What you also have are condensation issues with the wall and the roof. You may need a vapor barrier, and there's several different kinds. One that's called a smart membrane that allows moisture through it, but not air. So that is used in the South. It's used in zone 1, 2, and 3, and in 4, and really can be used in this area if you're running air conditioning. The situation of lag time with the radiant flora being too hot in a certain climate zone, or being too cold. You come into the fall and you go, gee, it's not warm enough. We turn the mini split on and the heat pump comes on for half a day. That may be all we need. We also, right now, we did a remodeling on our cabin up north and we put in radiant floor heating. This is a major remodeling. It's not a dome. I couldn't fit a dome in that property. We have remote control. I can pick up my phone. I can click on it's a Honeywell system. There are other brands. I can click on that and I can change the setting. We're going to go up there. We set that at somewhere between either 50 or 55 degrees. So the inside of that house stays that way for whenever we're not there. Now we want to go up. I can go to this Honeywell remote and click on, as I did, 70. How long does it take to get there? Well, it's almost 70 degrees right now because our daughter happens to be going up there. So I turned it up at 11 o'clock last night. Right now, it's almost 70 degrees. I think it's 68 or something up there right now inside the house. So one day is all that takes. Our house here, and the cabin's got more glass than we do here. So that may take a little longer. However, this one here, I know we've got about a 1 degree rise. If we wanted to turn this on in October, which is what we usually do, there's about a 1 degree rise per hour that we're dealing with. So if it's the slab is cool, and you can feel the radiant tubing in here when you're first starting it out, you can feel the heat, but give it a week, give it 2 weeks, and it evens the whole slab out. The transfer of heat dissipates through that whole slab.
Okay.
What's the other part of the questions that you had? Maybe I was off too much on a tangent.
No, it's good. There's so many coming in. I'm trying to steer you so you can simultaneously answer a few of these. I'll kind of disrupt you a little bit on what you're talking about now. Just these two are kind of similar. They're basically, I have Chris from California, and they're kind of a little similar just because they're both looking at getting started, I guess. I also have Eddie from Florida, and I did get a couple of questions here from Florida, the logistics of building in Florida, so that might be the same person possibly. But so Chris was asking, We'd like to build a dome home in Joshua Tree, California, desert environment. And I also have one that asks about desert as well. So, and we are looking for information on designing, building process, options, etc. And, you know, ironically, we just in the last few months, we've had 2 customers that are building in Joshua Tree. So I don't know, Joshua Tree is going to kind of experience possibly a little dome explosion there because it seems to be the hot spot. I know one of the customers has an investor and it's more of a rental project. But why I brought those 2 up, and I know sometimes the best way to get started with that is Nancy is very knowledgeable as well and can help with a lot of stuff and get a lot of people started just kind of on some of the, you know, the first steps of, you know, what to do. But typically, I mean, I guess really it's designing your dome to the point where then Dennis can officially design it and draw it out for you for permits and stuff like that. But Nancy's kind of a good first step. So I had, what about building in the desert, Joshua Tree? And also from Eddie is brand new to this, overview of the process would be great. And also had some concerns about financing options in their area, which there was another one here with financing options available for build. So that might be another follow-up with that question, but so I'll kind of throw those at you here for a few minutes while I organize another batch.
Well, we definitely build for the climate zones. I'll talk along here, and maybe if Carrie hears me, she'll put up the map we had last week showing the climate zones in this, in the continental United States. There's basically 7 of them. We're on the border of 6A and 7A. There's a line that goes down the middle from north to south, and you see this black line kind of between the Dakotas and Montana and Wyoming. It's drier to the west and wetter to the east. And these are 2 maps that I taped together because they were bigger size. So that faded line that you see running through the Dakotas, what's happened, just this happens to be where the splice is in the sheet of map. It's gotten drier to the east of that black line, almost to where that shaded line is in the middle of the Dakotas, in Nebraska. So that's climate change. It's here, it's happening. I mean, we didn't have snow until the day before Christmas, and it was everybody wishing for a white Christmas. And we got dumped on with 8 inches of snow, which was kind of nice. But the desert region, if you look at that map, the green area, 5B or 5A, you look at the areas in Arizona. On the northern part, it's a 5B zone, so zone 5. Then it goes to zone 4 and then down into 2. So the southern part of Arizona, if you know your maps, where it is, it's 2B. So it's very dry. You also have some purple, which is that colder zone up in Utah and Wyoming. But around it, it's warmer. You've got a blue area actually in California. There's another zone 6 over there. Well, we're zone 6. It's the same temperature over there. It's up in the mountains north of Tahoe. So we use this map. We want to see where you are. What's your climate zone? There's coastal regions. We do things differently there. What materials you use and what vapor barriers you use, what insulation that you use. We're going to recommend foam insulation in some areas. Other areas, we've done it up in Utah. Actually, I see this purple area right there, the dark purple area in Utah, and the blue area, I should say, in Utah. That we did an 18-inch wall, and we were going to ventilate it because we just thought it was just cold climate. The building inspector came to us and said, no, you don't want to ventilate this. You don't have any condensation problems. It's up at about 6,000 or 7,000 feet. It's dry air. So with that, We had already built the dome, though it was already up. So he wanted us to fill that wall cavity with fiberglass. So he's got 18 inches of fiberglass. It's got an R72 we ended up with in the wall. Now we recommend an R60 as a minimum in the north in zone 6 and 7, and in the south down in zones 2 and 3. We're saying stop the heat from going into the dome, and the north stop the heat from going out of the dome. So it's that kind of situation we're going to look at, and we'll choose which vapor barrier is going to work if you even need a vapor barrier. Down south on the inside, you don't want a vapor barrier on the inside. You want an outside to be sealed up, so use ice and water shield on the outside. So it's a mix, and it's a hard one for builders who come from the north and move to the south and start building and go, well, this is the way I've been doing it for 20 years. Well, that's the wrong climate zone that you're in. You just moved to the wrong climate, not the wrong climate zone, but you're just doing the wrong thing in that climate zone. So we learned this 25, 30 years ago, and have been doing this and staying ahead of where the code is in the R value. Right now, the majority of the country, the 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all rated for an R value of 49 in your roof and only 21 in the wall. Well, here in Minnesota, I don't know where you live, but when it's 20 below outside that wall, it's 20 below outside the ceiling. It's the same temperature. Why do you have a wall that's only R21 and the ceiling, is maybe an R49? That's a new house. Change. Right. Talk about this whole thing being insulated to this high level. We don't have cold pockets in this house. Radiant floor makes this even heat all the way around. So it's really, I got to say, we're like Derek mentioned, we're taking the class the last 2 weeks of this month, 2 days a week. And it's from a company, a group called Building Science, and it's buildingscience.com. So if you want to read up on the latest technology, and it's free. They get grants to do things, and they do a lot of research, and they publish a lot, and it's all there. It's all out there. So the green building movement, the R2000 program in Canada that started, one of the guys was involved in that back in the 90s. So that's your source. And that's who's teaching these classes that we're going to update ourselves. Okay, where are we at today? So it's buildingscience.com. It'll be probably more reading on technical issues, but actually, Joe, the guy who writes most of it, he's a very good writer. He makes it easy to understand, and a lot of times, a lot of humorous things added into it. So it's a nice read.
Right. And I don't know if you did specifically answer those, but yes, you can build in Florida with no problems, and you can build in the desert as well. I think what Dennis was showing there with all the climate zones is that, you can build properly anywhere. It's not going to be the same way to build in Florida as it would be in Minnesota, but you can absolutely build a dome there, no problem. And a couple of quick answers, I think. And this also, we have a longer question from Uruguay. So this is probably the same customer, but can you export components like connectors? Yes. Yes, we can. We ship all over the world. We have domes all over the world. So that is absolutely no problem. And then another one that's kind of similar is, what is the lead time for material delivery once design is established and a plan check is passed? And it kind of depends on the season and how much is going on. But typically we like to say, 4 to 6 weeks once we kind of have commitments on everything and the plans, green lighted, and we're just ready to start on your dome. It's usually probably 4 to 6 weeks we can have that complete, depending on the project. There's a lot of variables in there, but that'd kind of be an average. And then Dennis, I'm going to hit you with another storm of them here because we got some interesting questions. One asked about using steel studs instead of wood, which is a good question right now because wood is really gone through the roof. So it's nice to try to consider other possible alternatives. And another one is an interesting roofing one. Has anyone looked at using solid sheets of coated galvanized steel shaped to each triangle? So almost kind of like a one-piece roofing solution per triangle versus shingles or possibly metal shakes, because they do have metal options for domes, but not in one piece. And I'm going to keep hitting you here, Dennis. And also, is it possible to finish walls with Adobe and a dome? I know that one really neat rental dome in the cities, they did a clay finish, which looked really cool. And then the last of the four here is, once a dome is built and lived in, is it difficult to add on later? So there's a bunch kind of all related to the construction and options for construction. And so I'll kind of group those and let you kind of discuss them if that works for you. And I can jump in or remind you if you missed one of these. So
I just put a few notes down for myself too.
oh, okay.
Up just real quick on the cupola issue. Is it necessary to have a cupola in a dome? No. It is not. You need ventilation at the top of this dome, near the top. We don't usually put it on the very top. But what you're dealing with is a Velux, either electric or solar powered skylight up on top, or really two or three of them in lieu of a cupola. The cupola does not deal with the airspace in your dome. If you've got to ventilate it, there's a vent at the top of this dome right here where the cupola wall comes down and the dome comes up to it. Right along there, there's a vent strip. So the cupola is not doing anything. If we didn't have that, there's another way that we offer ventilation for the dome shell, where you deal with condensation issues and fiberglass insulation. So it doesn't do anything. It doesn't dry out the inside air. It's not connected into your system unless you have a vent system tied into the cupola. But it's not necessary to have the view cupola on top. You're adding, you really want to know, if you put 5 windows in that and here's the cupola and you want a floor, you're adding $6,000, $7,000 to the cost of your house. Instead, you can put in Velux roof windows and they're $600, $700 a piece. That's going to ventilate it. Put in 3, 4 of them. It's a lot less money. So going back real quick to steel studs. You can use steel studs inside the house. In the dome shell, we're dealing with this triangle. There are no studs in our triangles. What you're seeing in other dome systems, they put studs within these triangles at 16 inches on center or at the most 24 inches on center. Usually in the size triangle here, you've probably got 5, maybe 6 pieces of lumber. In this dome, there's 160 triangles. Multiply it out. We don't need studs in our triangles because we're dealing with 3/4 inch plywood on the outside. So it's structural plywood, not just half. We don't deal with half inch. Half inches, sometimes we use it for packing crates. We're dealing with the technology of the material. What we have here that you see in this dome is tongue and groove paneling. It's 1x8 tongue and groove paneling. It spans the entire triangle. We don't need any studs in there. We don't have heat transfer going through, and that's a big part of it. So step away and I'll grab this. This is our 18-inch wide strut, and we've got this piece of foam insulation. Now we don't have any heat transfer except where this piece of plywood joins the 2x8 to the 2x4. So there's no heat loss that you have like a normal house where you walk by and you see snow on the roof, except all the rafters have lines in the roof because the heat transfers melted the snow. This is a whole system that we have designed for fiberglass. When you do foam insulation, you can do that very easily, and you put in a high enough R value for that. I'm not sure that you could use steel studs in there. You don't want steel studs in your outside wall. If you've got something connected on both sides, you got heat transfer through the steel. Wood is an insulator. Wood's going to give you 1.25 per inch. So from that standpoint, but if you want to use steel studs in the house, yeah, your internal walls, go for it. Because right now they're probably cheaper. I think, Derek, you bought some 2x4 studs, you said, this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. They've, some wood's gone up double, triple the price. So yeah.
And lumber prices are up, and we're just about to readjust our pricing online. That'll happen within the next 2 weeks, but it's happened before. Yeah, this is October, September, October, prices jumped tremendously. A lot of different reasons. I don't have to go into them, but the roofing, talking about coated galvanized steel as a panel. All right, so now you get to the triangles, and they're not all nicely lined up with a flat horizontal line. So how do you seal that joint? How do you deal with that joint at that point? Company, this was Monterey Domes, tried it. It was a fiberglass triangle that looked like cedar shakes. And it came in a color, you can get different colors, but it came in a color that looked really good like cedar shakes. But they were individual triangles. And we have repaired many Monterey Domes with taking all of that off and putting a new roof on it, because you couldn't seal that joint line. So we use Malarkey as a brand coming out of Oregon. It's in, they got a plant down in Louisiana, so they're serving the central states. They're working their way to the East Coast. That's a family name, but it's the name of the company, Malarkey. The shingle that we use is called Legacy, Malarkey Legacy shingles. The first time that our roofer that we use around here did a dome, he said, "That's it, I'm switching." And that's all it took. You ask him for recommendation, and it's the Malarkey Legacy shingle. We will ship that with our domes to the East Coast. We've done that several times. So we can do that. The interior surface that we have here, talking about Adobe as a material, like I said, I don't know if you, Carrie, if you have a picture of the dome down in Eden Prairie. I'm trying to figure out where we have that photo.
That's the double dome. I don't know if we have an interior shot.
It's on our rental list. We have a section on the home page that has a lot of domes that are for rent. And this is a double dome down in south of Minneapolis, still in the city. They did a clay finish on the inside. If you've got the person that can do that, do it. But you as a novice are probably, it's beyond the scope of the finesse of getting this Adobe look on the inside. We have an option with our, instead of our spruce paneling, we'll do 3/4 inch plywood. And you can then paint or coat that surface. We're still going to suggest in a cold climate zone, a batten strip down the joints. So you see these batten strips that cover these joints. You've got some expansion contraction from summer to winter. So that's a big part of it. So you want to cover that.
Okay. You know what?
Yes, you can add on. We have a complex over there that talks about the, started out in 1975 with a 46-foot diameter dome with a 26-foot dome attached to it for our girls as a bedroom. When they graduated, we go, okay, we need an office better than where we were. Long story short, we took that dome down and built a 36-foot dome office. And that was easy to add on. But then we went the other way And when my late sister-in-law came along and decided for various reasons to move in with us, we said, you want to build a separate dome? You want to live in the city? Where do you want to go? So we added another dome on. We surveyed the trees, built around the trees that we had, and created her 30-foot diameter dome, plus a garage added onto that. So you can keep adding on. When you know, if you can draw that into your master plan, if you say, well, I'll build this now, and then we want to add this on, or for whatever reason you want to do something, plan that out in your building process by not nailing the outside panel on, but screwing it on. And you can take this panel, and that panel, take these 3 panels out, and then add on. That's your extension. Structure-wise, you don't do anything. The dome is self-supporting. I just took out, there's 1 strut here, 1 strut here, 1 here, and 1 here. So if that's what you're going to take out, you've got 4 struts. How many other struts do I have? 250. So you got 250 pieces holding up the whole dome. You take 4 out, it's not going to do anything. We come in, we'll take a section out. People go, oh, my, sure you can take that much out? Our saws don't even bind up if we're trying to cut something. So remodeling, changing, adapting to your family changes works. It works in the dome much better than a conventional structure.
Right. Well, good job. Well, that puts us at 7. One thing I wanted, and you may have mentioned it, Dennis, I was trying to kind of see how I could combine more of these. So sorry if I'm repeating myself, but metal roofs are an option. Ranky makes a product that works really, really well, and it looks very sharp, and it's considered like a 100-year roof. So there are some metal roof options, and there's some new underlayments now that are really opening up the door for a lot of different things you can do with metal. So it may be possible to do a 1-piece metal roof sometime soon, because a lot of these metal roof companies rely on the underlayment for the waterproofing layer. So real quick, Dennis, and we are at 7, so we're kind of in overtime here, but I just got a few, if we can kind of do a lightning round with these. We got one about the solar roofing panels on the new dome homes. We have, not that any of these are lightning round questions, but we have, this one's quick. How does the cupola change the wind resistance of a dome? And then also some traditional financing. Is it a concern for homes? This one's from Florida. Those are a couple of them. And then a real quick, I'm just going to touch on this because we actually answered this last week. But the customer was unable to attend at the time, but this kind of goes back to the thermal barrier. He was wondering about, can you use a thermal barrier between the wall airspace and insulation? And what would be the cost to upgrade a 30-foot low profile to a 40-foot? But I would suggest that we are going to try to upload a lot of these videos, and we did kind of go over that one. So maybe save that at the end if we have time, and because we already kind of answered it last week, and we can probably get that posted. So, and then let's see, Carrie asks, how does the NSD wall compare to the building science wall? Oh, construction. How does the NSD wall construction compare to the building science wall? Is the last one. And that's, I think that gets them all. So that's kind of a barrage. And for those of you that can't stay past our 1 hour, I appreciate you guys coming on, and we'll see if we can get through those. And we are going to try to get these kind of uploaded for you guys to be able to hop on and, you know, look for questions, particular questions, without having to go through the whole hour. If you just want to look at questions, we're going to try to eventually get this updated. We've been extremely busy, so everything's taken us a little longer than we wanted to, but we will try to get that up there for you guys. So if you remember any of those questions now that I said all that after, I'll jump into it, Dennis.
I wrote them down. For the roof. Yeah, Tesla does make a shingle for the roof. And there's another company out, there's actually 3 companies out there making solar shingles. One of them makes a 45-degree cut on one of their shingles. So now, even though the dome triangles are not 45 degrees, you could put a section on that triangle of shingles that are solar. It will track as that sun goes around. So you'll have maybe not one big massive area, but you'll be tracking that sun as it goes around the house. So you may, I don't have any feedback, but you may have enough on there to warrant it. California's got some codes that they want to see solar on the houses, you know, so that's a changing market. We're part of the solar home tour in the fall. It's the first Saturday in October. And hopefully, you know, it may be that you have to have your COVID shot to attend it, but I think by the fall we'll be at that point, hoping for it. Or let's say, those of you older people who will have your shots by then, we've got a tour that'll be open. But you'll see some different shingles that are out there. We did a copper roof on the dome in Japan. And it was, I think it looked like about either 18 or 24-inch wide roll of copper. And he did a bend on the bottom one. And then the top piece coming down had a reverse bend. So the two of them locked together. And he went around horizontally on this. So that's a situation. Worked great, looks great. Copper's going to age and get the patina over it. And I just do the same answer to this thing as customers say, how do you put this roof on? Who can do that for you? You call the guy up from Japan, fly him over, you can get this copper roof to look the same as the one in Japan. But the Reinke shake for us is the metal alternative. So if you want a metal alternative, that's what it is. It's $295 a square. The Reinke, that's the Reinke roof, but the Malarkey Legacy is $145 a square. And the metal roof, the new way they've got, if they change their system, it's actually going to be cheaper to do labor-wise than the old system, but I'm not sure how much cheaper it's going to be than putting the asphalt shingles on, if in labor, if it is. It's definitely, the product is twice as much, but it's a forever roof. The Legacy shingle, it's a 50-year roof.
Right, right.
The, what was the question on the cupola roof? Is that what,
It was, does a cupola change wind resistance of a dome?
wind resistance, right, I left that part off. No, our cupola is tied in, locked into our hub system. So there's a hub at the edge of this cupola, and this sleeve of ours fits into a 2x8 that goes up and down through that. So this piece is locked into the hub system. So that's not going to go anywhere from that side support. At the top of the dome, that's got 4 bolts going in at the top of that wall tied to the roof. And the roof in the middle has one of these longer pieces. We call this a super wall, super lock sleeve in a super wall system. This one, you can see the difference here, is an ultra lock. So it's got a much longer and farther spaced bolt pattern, but it still fits into the hub. So now you put this in the middle of the cupola roof. It's not going to blow off. It does not change the wind resistance. The wind resistance we're talking about is a 200-mile-an-hour wind speed rate. Our least amount of wind speed that we're talking about is 150-mile-an-hour wind. We designed it for that, and we go way beyond that into 200-mile-an-hour wind speed. It doesn't really change that. You will see the rain go up and over the dome. In the cupola, you can stand there as we did in North Carolina, the beach dome that we owned, we sold, it was a rental property. You'd be up there and the wind would draw that air up. You'd see the rain coming up and going around horizontally around that dome. The shape of it, it's not a square up on top, it's pentagonal. We had an extension going out, and the structural engineer said, cut that corner of that extension, about a 4 to 5 foot section, and make it a 45-degree cut in the corner on the ocean side. So now the wind hits that, goes around that corner and leeward to the inland. So that was the trick he said to do. It really worked well. There was not a problem out there. This was a 52-foot high dome. By that, I mean, first you had to have 10 feet off the dune, and then we had another 9 or 10 feet. So it was quite high. I know there were times when we were out there and we had a little movement in this dome, in the wind. You'd be upstairs in that third level master bedroom, and it's got a little twitch to it. But none of the sheetrock ever cracked. That didn't move. It's a wood frame structure. We called the engineer one time. I was talking to him about that. He said, good, that's what it's supposed to do. It's not a rigid structure. It's got a little bit of play with that because it's a wood structure on wood pilings. And the pilings went down 16 feet in the ground. So that didn't move. I mean, it's still there. It's not going to move.
Let me try to get you this one too, and I know we're in overtime, and but this one is from Uruguay, and it came in right before we started, so it's kind of a last minute entry. But she also did, I think, ask about the connector kit, and it's from Marianne. Are you on, Marianne? Are you one of the people I can see? Maybe I can only see a few, but and her husband Christian, and they were. Let's see here. I'll try to summarize it a little bit. But they're basically looking at their goals, like a 7-meter diameter, 3-frequency dome. And they're just kind of wondering about getting materials. Like I asked you earlier about the connectors, or I think I actually answered that one, but let's see. And they're hoping to do locally sourced materials as well. And that is something we offer. We offer just the connector kit if you wanted to get your own materials or build your own components, all the way up to everything you need to have everything finished by your contractor if you're completely hands off. So we kind of offer the whole range to accommodate whatever you're looking for. So in this case, if you wanted to get locally sourced materials and you just wanted to get some connectors, that's something we can definitely do for you. Let's see.
We ship connectors all over the world. They're crated up. There'll be 1 meter by 1 meter by, a cube, a meter cubed. So
Right.
that's about the biggest package you're going to have. Now, it might weigh 1,000 or 1,200 pounds. I forget the kilograms of that, but no, it's not an issue to ship that. We have a construction manual that goes with our kit, and the construction manual is a very detailed 400 to 500 page manual. There's a lot of things in here talking about all the different aspects of it. There's about 16 or 18 chapters in here. So it's going to show you all of what you need to do to build the kit part, interior rooms and stuff. You may need us to be drawing you an interior floor joist arrangement. Here we've got cantilevered beams that come out to hold up our second floor. So we offer those services. We offer the design services, but you can build your own dome. In fact, we recommend that you put up your own dome. We have dome raisings, and the dome raising depends on where you are. And if you give people about 3 weeks, so you have a lot of people show up for a dome raising because it's so unusual. It's like an old-fashioned barn raising.
Yeah, she actually in the chat asked if we were planning to make an online course before June 2021. And we are actually just kind of joking about this, as we did make an online course and we were trying to get it ready And just with the schedules being as crazy as they've been, it's been kind of being delayed, but hopefully before June 2021, this will be available to you. So, and really what we did, we offered this last fall. And what we did is we essentially we assembled what we normally would for Dome School, and we recorded the whole process so that we can show you start to, well, I kind of say finish. It was just a demo, of course, but we try to show you all the aspects from foundation to the framework to insulation to roofing and everything. So we do have all of that shot and edited. It's just a matter of trying to just get it into a good enough product that we can make it available to you guys. So we're working on that. And I would say confidently before June 2021, and I'm hoping as soon as possible. So that's something where you can maybe kind of check back with us occasionally and see how it's doing. I won't check back any sooner than maybe 2 or 3 weeks, but but we are trying to do that as soon as possible. So
Eric, we also mentioned this the other day. We've got it on our website. It says the June, I think it's the second week of June, we're planning a dome school. At the rate that we're going, and we'll see about what happens here if this country will kind of wake up and get immunized here. We might be able to do that, but it'll probably be a qualification of that, and probably the August school that we mentioned too. If you got a COVID shot, both of them, or whatever one system you might get, that might be a qualifier. However, I am still looking at this virtual dome school that we did last fall, and planning another one out, realizing that maybe we won't get as many people. But what we found was we now have a wider market. You got to fly here, you got to rent a motel or rental a car. So we put on a virtual dome school, and all of a sudden it's open to the whole country without this hassle of traveling. And this is what COVID's done. We go, what can we do online? So that's part of what we're looking at, is to do this online with those people that don't want to travel. We're in the midst of this, but it's going to be lingering around for a year and a half. So why travel? So I'm serious. We're looking at this. I can't tell you a date because we really want to do it outside, which, April, well, that's questionable. But certainly there's some nice times if we can plan it out and give enough notice. April and May, that's a really good time here in Minnesota, where the snow is usually gone long enough that we can put on a dome school. So we've got a live interaction with a lot of video that we do and a lot of different details and video shots. But at least we're doing it. Derek and I will do it on a live basis. So.
Yeah, and it's, and we try to encourage it, and for anybody that's going to build, even if you're going to have contractors involved, it's just nice to kind of have an idea of what's happening on a project like that, and of course you can share it with your contractor, and then that way they can any things they may run into that might stump them, the solution will be there. I think that's everything. We do have that one question that we kind of repeated last week, and maybe what I can do is send that directly to him, or if you wanted to answer that, that would be our last one. It's a little bit after 7, so I'll leave that up to you, Dennis, if you want to keep it going a little bit.
Just a real quick one on that financing one with FHA. There is a section on FHA financing, it's the Federal Housing Authority. And in their manual, they do accept dome homes. It's not like they don't accept it. They will. There's a clause in there that you do not have to have another dome as a comparable. So now you look for a custom-built house. But the problem is not a lot of lenders know that. Not a lot. They don't want to go into the detail of it. They still have this image that the dome is from the 60s instead of being, in the 2050 image is what it should be. So finding a lender We have a loan here at Wells Fargo. Another one has got a different lender on it, but local lenders, there's a local bank in town that's been our bank since they opened and we were here. We have account number 86. It's our account number. So we got this long history with them. They know us. Basically, they said, yeah, we'll accept a dome as a mortgage and hold it in-house. Their only requirement is they want a 20% equity on your part, whether that's partly the land that you own and then you build a house, but they're looking for you to have a stake in it, and then they'll hold that mortgage. And they've got a couple of loans at this local bank. So that's not out of the question.
Right. Okay. I'll throw this last one at you, just in case he's still hanging in there, hoping for the answer. So, yeah, two questions. One is, can a thermal barrier be used between the wall airspace and the installation? And what would be the cost upgrade? And this is a tough one to answer, but what would be the cost upgrade of 30-foot low profile to a 40-foot mid profile? And this is from Mike in Texas. So I don't know if you're on, Mike, but if you are, you're the last question standing here. So if you have anything you wanted to add to that, feel free to kind of jump in there, and hopefully you were able to make it tonight. I know the cost thing, Dennis. I'll make that brief for you so you can jump into the airspace. But the 30-foot low to the 40-foot mid, I assume if it's new construction, they're both going to be 3 frequency. So really, it's not a huge. There's another row of triangles on the 40-foot mid, so there's additional hardware and stuff. But really, I guess it's going to be probably a square footage calculator online might be the best way to kind of try to give yourself a kind of a ballpark figure, because there's so many variables with the cost on things on what you do. Would you kind of recommend that, Dennis, for him maybe just throw it in the calculator on the square footage, what he's looking at?
Yeah, from the total cost of it, from the cost of changing a connection hardware system that he may own as a low profile 3 frequency dome, and going to, we really don't have I'm correct you a little bit here, Derek. We don't have a mid 40-foot dome. We have a high and a low.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I read it off the paper. Yep.
But that's just adding 15 connectors, 15 hubs, and their corresponding sleeves and nuts and bolts. So it's not a huge difference to it. So it's, these are the hubs. So it's 15 of these that you need, or 14 depending on the openings that you have. So
right.
It's not that pricey to do that. You're going to gain more square footage on your roof. So there's a roof cost, there's an insulating cost. So all of that is adding to what you're going to do. Your floor space is going to jump if you've got a 30-foot diameter that you've been planning, but you can take all of those parts in that 30-footer and build a 33, 36, 38, 40. The same number of parts and pieces in all of those sizes, 30-foot to 40-foot. So you can buy a kit and you say, well, I'm going to build a 30. And years later, end up building a 40-foot diameter kit. You got the same number of parts and pieces. You can do it with that connection hardware system.
Would a different template be needed?
No. The angle on the strut, these are all what are called 3 frequency domes. So there's an angle on this that you see right here compared to, so you can see the angle right here. So this particular strut, it's not color coded, but in the 3 frequency dome, we have 4 different angles that this is placed on here. So we provide you with that 30-footer, we provide you with A, B, C, and D templates. It's the same angle on a 40-foot diameter dome, just that the strut is longer. The strut in a 40-footer is, the longest one's 9 feet. They vary from about 7 something to 9 feet. And in a 30-footer, they're like 6 feet, 5 feet to 6 feet. So it just changed the length of your strut. Angle's the same. There's a question that you had on that thermal barrier which is really a radiant barrier in the airspace. I really don't think it's going to be any advantage. What you're looking at is to try to reflect sunlight by coming through the roof, and then we have an airspace, and then it hits a radiant barrier, and because you have that airspace, it will reflect whatever heat has come through there. But we're talking 3/4 plywood and the shingles. Yes, there's heat coming through there, but what kind of insulation do you have to the inside? With this 18-inch wall I just showed you, that airspace is going to be hot, but the rays of the sun are what you're talking about, not the heat transfer. Now, I'm not sure there's a gain to it because on the other side of that, we've got 16 inches of insulation. I should bring it out to 16 inches. That's what we have in our house. This is an R64. So,
Okay.
sort of answers that, I hope.
Well, I know there was a lot, there was a lot of questions. We usually try to get the questions ahead of time so that we can see if we can find some photos to accommodate them and stuff like that. But we did get a lot of questions on the fly. In fact, here's kind of what came in addition. So I would say under the circumstances, I think you pretty much answered hopefully everything, and hopefully we didn't miss anybody. But if so, or we didn't have a chance to get to your question, I mean, we will be doing this again next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. But yeah, I don't know. I think everybody is okay, and so I think it was successful in that respect. But if we did miss somebody, please sign up for the next one, and we will be there again from 6 to 7. So, you got anything else you want to sign off with, Dennis, before we call it good?
About it. It's always fun to talk to people and see what they really want to hear about, and not be talking about something you really don't want to hear about from us.
Yeah. Well, it's, there's some technical questions and some fun questions and some, I think hopefully we get to kind of touch on everybody's interest, and it wasn't too dry on some of the technical stuff. But Dennis, you definitely, as always, you make sure not to cut anybody short on their information. So I think everybody should have enough to kind of, mull over until the next one. So, all right. Well,
Hope you did too, and we're going to maybe see you next time. But if not, you can give us a call, like you said. Call us, talk to Nancy. We like personal conversations.
Yeah, she's a good first person to start with, really, and kind of get you going. So, and the website, of course, has a lot of information on it. So if you kind of look around on the website, spend enough time, you'll find a lot of answers there. And hopefully we'll get more of this video stuff posted up there for you as well. Kind of keep an eye on it. And we'll try to, as soon as we can, we'll try to get more of that up there for you guys. So, but all right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for jumping in with us. And it was nice seeing some of you guys. And it's pretty cool that some of the people that are working on the projects jumped in just to listen as well. So anyway, thank you very much. And I guess we'll see you next week, maybe.
Very good. See you guys.
All right.
Thank you. Have a great night.